Mushishi is a masterpiece. I'm sure anyone who has seen this anime can agree. I'm also sure that all of us who have seen Mushishi found it the exact same way. I don't know about you, but I often find myself looking at my anime list, just to see how well received a certain anime is. There are so many anime out there, and I usually wait until the entire anime is released before I binge the entire thing in one sitting. I don't want to waste my time with a mediocre anime, which is something I've unfortunately done before. That doesn't mean that I always agree with the scores that certain anime get. Sometimes I think some shows are very overrated, and sometimes I think people were being very harsh on a show when a similar show receives praise. However, one thing I check quite regularly is the top anime on my anime list. It's usually just to validate my own opinions and make me feel like I have good taste. Every time I see Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood in the #1 spot, it brings joy to my heart as I know that I too like that anime, and therefore I'm also a genius of high IQ with the most impeccable taste in anime. But that's besides the point. If you've seen any of my videos, then you would know that I'm the reincarnation of Einstein, obviously. Anyway, it's always interesting to see what anime are in the top 100. Some are quite famous, but there are also quite a lot of obscure anime there that you probably haven't heard of. One of those is Mushi-shi. Interestingly, as far as I'm aware, all seasons, OVAs and films in the Mushi-shi anime are in the top 100. Better yet, the anime is a complete product, so there's no need to wait 10 years for the final arc. Now, Mushishi is a difficult anime to talk about, so I'll try and break it down first into what I could talk about objectively. Let's start with the animation, something I usually forget to talk about when reviewing anime. The animation in Mushishi is very good. It's no Demon Slayer, but it doesn't need to be. The animation is usually very simple, but it works because the characters are usually doing very simple actions. For example, a character drinking sake, or a character adjusting how they sit. There's no moments in this anime where characters all of a sudden start fighting in breathtaking animation. No, things are a lot more muted in this anime and a lot slower, which helps give Mushishi a relaxing atmosphere. You may not have heard of the studio that animated Mushishi. Artland, anyone? You may have seen their other popular anime, Reborn. No? Well, apparently Reborn might be getting a remake or a follow-on or something, so it might be worth checking it out. Although in my opinion, Reborn is a very mixed bag of an anime. Unfortunately, Artland was shut down in 2017, but not before they were able to finish Mushishi, and I'm very grateful for that, as their work on Mushishi was always excellent. What's surprising to me about Mushishi is that I enjoyed it anywhere near as much as I did, mainly because Mushishi is an episodic anime, and I usually bounce right off episodic television shows. It's the reason why Cowboy Bebop didn't click for me like everyone else. Before you attack me with your pitchforks, I do like Cowboy Bebop, and certain episodes like The Fridge Monster were great. Also, Cowboy Bebop has an excellent ending, so if you've seen any of my other videos, then you'll be aware that that gives it extra brownie points with me. What anime is this video about again? Oh yeah, Mushishi. Mushishi is not a show you should binge. I recommend watching 2 or 3 episodes at a time, as you'll be able to get through the series quite quickly without it feeling like a chore. I know there are some madman out there that could binge all of Mushishi, but I'm not him. Perhaps my dislike of episodic shows was diluted somewhat by the presence of Ginko, our guide on this anime journey. Ginko is a fantastic protagonist, and without him, the anime would be nowhere near as well received. I like that he's essentially a doctor for the supernatural, if we were to dumb down what Mushishi is. To me, he comes across as quite a kind man, but also someone who will give it to you straight. He kind of reminds me of the Doctor from Doctor Who. Probably not a comparison that you were expecting, but it's how he feels to me. Both are warm and compassionate, but both are also wanderers. They feel like men with no home, but instead of succumbing to isolation and loneliness, this life suits them. They get to experience the wonders of the world as well as its dangers. They get to see the beauty and horror in the world. They help many people that they come across, whilst occasionally butting heads with people that think they know better. They don't form everlasting connections with most people that they meet, but the ones that they do, they and the viewer will remember for a long time. Another aspect I like about Mushishi is the way it treats people's health in a realistic way. The conditions that the patients that Ginko treats may have made-up disorders, some similar to some real-world disorders, but it's the way the characters react to their and their family's problems that feels so real. Sometimes the issue is simple, and Ginko can solve it pretty quickly. Sometimes it's a little trickier, requiring a bit more ingenuity on Ginko's part. Sometimes the patients themselves make it worse. Sometimes they don't listen to Ginko. Sometimes the disorder, even when solved, leaves a psychological effect on the patient. Sometimes the disorder leaves permanent damage, and sometimes there's nothing Ginko can do. It makes the anime feel more real, despite the context. It makes it easy for us to relate to these characters who are only ever around for one episode, because we have all had health problems, whether they be big or small, and we've all had minor things that have gotten worse, or felt the relief of something that troubled us going away. It effectively makes it easy for us to latch onto these characters who we will spend the next 20 minutes with, as we can understand their pain and suffering, and we can easily empathise with them. If I had one complaint about Mushishi, then it would be its ending, or better yet, its lack of one. Mushishi is episodic, so there is no ongoing storyline to wrap up. Yes, there are a couple of characters who sporadically appear throughout the anime, but that's it. However, I still would have liked a definitive end to the series, something like the OVA where a few of the characters came back. But no! The final Mushi-shi film is just another Ginko adventure, and I won't lie, it left me a little underwhelmed. I hesitate to say disappointed, because I did like the film, but I just wish there was something to really make me feel like Mushishi had come to an end. To me, it just felt like the writer ran out of ideas and decided to call it quits. But I have no idea. Mushishi is essentially the story of Ginko's travels, and we are just reading a bunch of the chapters in a random order. I think I was underwhelmed because of how much I loved the series, and because I didn't want it to end. I know it isn't what Mushishi is, but I kinda wish it went out on an explosive high. I think Mushishi will be kind of like another Ozark for me. Ozark, if you don't know, was this fantastic show, but it had such a mediocre ending. I was planning on doing a video on Ozark when it released, but I was so disappointed with the ending that I decided against it. As time has passed, my feelings on Ozark have softened. I always thought, as middling as the ending was, it never ruined the show. It just put a dampener on my enjoyment of it. But since then, I've gotten over it, and I can now look at Ozark by remembering how good it was, instead of how okay it ended. Like I said, Mushishi doesn't have an ending, so I expect the process will be a lot quicker for Mushishi, and it won't be long before I'm able to look back on Mushishi for the excellent piece of art that it was, instead of the way it just sorta stopped.